For 3 centuries, the Zarathian Dominion had ruled the galaxy with unmatched power. Their fleets moved like shadows across star systems, crushing anything that resisted. Planets fell under their command, one by one, leaving behind nothing but ash and silence. The Zarathians were confident, ruthless, and completely unchallenged. Admiral Korath Vale stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Fury, watching the endless void ahead. His 4 eyes scanned the blinking lights of distant stars, indifferent to the life that might exist among them. The fleet stretched across kilometers of space, a wall of steel and fire ready to consume any opposition. His mandibles clicked softly as he smiled, a sound of amusement that few dared to hear. "Report," he said, his deep voice resonating through the control room. "Scouts have located a cluster of human colonies at the edge of the outer veil," said Lieutenant Zyra Talone, her purple armored form reflecting the dim lights. "They are primitive, barely 2 centuries into space travel." Korath waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Humans," he muttered, "hardly worth our attention. Prepare the invasion fleet. We will remind them why the Zarathians rule the stars." The outer veil stretched ahead like a dark curtain, marking the border of human space. A line of automated beacons blinked steadily, each one flashing the same warning in every known language. "This is humanity's frontier. Cross at your own risk." The Zarathians had seen these warnings before on countless worlds. They laughed at them, always laughing. To them, humanity was no more than a small, weak species clinging to primitive technology. "Admiral," said another officer, Commander Veshri, "they have not responded to hails. All channels are silent." "Silence," Korath said with a hiss, "is fear. They tremble, waiting for their doom. Let them wait a little longer." The Eternal Fury crossed the border first, its engines roaring, piercing the invisible line of human space. One by one, the rest of the fleet followed, sliding silently into the darkness like predators entering a cage. The stars glimmered coldly around them, and still, there was no sign of resistance. Koratha's eyes narrowed in satisfaction. "They hide, they cower," he said. "This will be over before their suns rise again." Deep in the shadows of the outer veil, far from the proud fleet, a different kind of eyes were watching. On the human command station Vanguard, hidden inside the hollow core of a drifting asteroid, Commander Eric Hylier stood with his arms crossed. His gray eyes studied the red markers on a holographic map, the advancing Zarathian fleet. Around him, the bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of machinery. Eric's jaw tightened. He did not move, did not speak. He had seen the Zarathians' destruction before, on old transmissions and news reports from other colonies. Entire civilizations had fallen under their relentless advance. And yet humanity had prepared, quietly, patiently, and with strategy. "Confirm all defensive positions," Eric said finally, his voice calm but firm. "Confirmed, Commander," replied Lieutenant Sarah Voss, her hands flying across the console. "All weapon platforms online. Stealth drones in position. Minefield activated." Eric nodded slowly. For decades, humans had watched the Zarathians expand, observing each conquered world, each burnt colony. And for decades, they had waited, hidden, preparing their defenses in secret. Survival, they knew, was not a gift. It was earned through intelligence, strategy, and patience. "Admiral Korath believes we are weak," Eric murmured to Ambassador Leora Dane, who stood silently beside him. Her expression was calm, almost serene, but her eyes carried the weight of countless decisions. "They were warned," she said softly. "And they came anyway," Eric replied. The Zarathians, confident and arrogant, had crossed into human space without a second thought. But the humans had not waited idly. Every station, every colony had been prepared for this moment. The difference between the two species was not in strength alone, but in understanding, in patience, in the discipline to wait for the right time. Back on the bridge of the Eternal Fury, Korath paced, already planning the victory speech he would deliver to the High Council. He imagined the humans' quick surrender, the burning of their colonies, and the glory that would be his. He did not notice the subtle movements on the edge of his sensors, tiny blips moving in ways that no ordinary human fleet could manage. "They are nothing," Korath hissed, his eyes glowing with arrogance. Nothing. But somewhere in the darkness, humanity waited. And the shadows were patient. The first encounter was about to begin, though neither side fully understood the storm that was coming. The Zarathians believed themselves unstoppable. The humans believed in strategy, unity, and intelligence. And in that quiet tension, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. As the eternal fury approached the first human colony, Korath felt a thrill of anticipation. He had conquered hundreds of worlds before. This would be no different. But for the humans, it was a moment they had been waiting for their entire existence. Every drill, every simulation, every quiet hour of preparation would finally pay off. Commander Eric Hylier's finger hovered over the command console, ready to unleash the defenses that the Zarathians had thought impossible. Korath's laugh echoed across the bridge, dark and confident. "Prepare to witness the end of these fragile humans," he said. And far away, inside the asteroid, the humans prepared to change everything. Deep inside the asteroid core of the Vanguard command station, the humans waited. Their ships were hidden, their weapons concealed, their minds focused. Commander Eric Hylier stood with his hands behind his back, his gray eyes fixed on the holographic display in front of him. The Zarathian fleet stretched across the outer darkness, vast and gleaming, a wall of fire and steel moving steadily toward human space. "Scanners indicate they are maintaining formation," Lieutenant Sarah Voss reported. "No signs of hesitation, no communication from the fleet." Eric nodded slowly. "Exactly as we expected." Around him, the human crew moved quietly, methodically. Every station had been drilled hundreds of times for this moment. Every soldier, engineer, and pilot knew their role. The Zarathians believed humans were weak, undisciplined, and primitive. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Commander," said Ambassador Leora Dane, her calm voice breaking the silence. "Are we truly ready?" Eric turned to her, his expression firm. "We have waited long enough. We are ready. Every system is prepared. Every fleet hidden. Every weapon online. They think they are walking into an easy victory. They have no idea what they are about to face." Leora nodded, her eyes sharp. "And if they attack first?" Eric's gaze shifted back to the holographic map, where the Zarathian fleet's red markers crawled steadily toward the human colonies. "Then they will regret it," he said simply. "They will regret it forever." The human colonies had not been idle while the Zarathians expanded across the galaxy. For decades, humanity had watched. They had seen planets reduced to ash, civilizations enslaved, and countless species wiped from existence. Every defeat, every story had been a lesson. Stealth drones moved silently in the shadows of nearby asteroid belts. Minefields had been placed in patterns that would trap the largest ships. Orbital platforms, camouflaged to avoid detection, were ready to fire on command. Humans had not simply prepared to survive, they had prepared to fight back. A low beep echoed from one of the consoles. Lieutenant Voss's fingers flew across the keys. "All units report in. Position confirmed. Stealth fleet in attack range." Eric exhaled slowly. "Good. Maintain positions. Let them come closer. Let them think they are safe." Meanwhile, across the darkness, Admiral Korath Vale on the Eternal Fury remained confident. His eyes glimmered with anticipation as he imagined the surrender of the human colonies. "They will beg for mercy soon enough," he told Commander Veshri. "Prepare the speech for the High Council. Their defeat will be our triumph." But even as the Zarathians advanced, the first signs of humanity's preparation began to appear. Small, almost invisible streaks of light moved among the stars. Stealth drones, silent and deadly. Each drone carried weapons powerful enough to cripple a single Zarathian warship. They waited for the right moment. Eric watched the markers carefully, his mind calculating every possibility. "Target their scouts first," he ordered. "Let them see what hides in the shadows. Then the rest will follow." Minutes passed like hours. The tension on the Vanguard bridge was thick, but not a single human flinched. They had trained for this. Every drill, every exercise, every simulation had led to this moment. Suddenly, a scout ship from the Zarathian fleet entered the perimeter of the human defenses. Its sensors should have been able to detect the hidden drones, but the humans had learned how to mask themselves in the void. "Scouts entering zone," reported Voss. "Engage stealth drones. Minimal visibility." A series of small, precise explosions erupted far ahead of the advancing fleet. The Zarathian scout ships faltered, alarms flashing across their bridges. The larger fleet paused momentarily, but Karatha's confidence was not shaken. "They hide," he hissed through clenched mandibles. "They are weak. This will be over soon." Back on the Vanguard, Eric allowed himself a small, controlled smile. "They will learn their mistake," he whispered. "They will learn it today." Ambassador Leora Dane watched him closely. "They underestimate us because they have never faced humans like this before. Patience, Eric. Let them overcommit." Eric's hand hovered over the command console. With a calm motion, he activated Protocol Nightfall, the code name for humanity's hidden defensive strategy. Across the outer veil, minefields lit up faintly, and orbital cannons hummed as they aligned for attack. Every human outpost communicated silently through encrypted channels, a network of vigilance that the Zarathians could not detect. The first attack would not destroy the fleet, but it would show the invaders that humans were not afraid, that they were prepared, and that they could strike with precision and intelligence far beyond their apparent numbers. Karath watched his sensors carefully. The sudden losses of scouts were irritating but hardly alarming. "It is just a minor inconvenience," he said. "The humans cannot resist us. Move forward." But even as the Zarathian fleet advanced, Eric's strategy unfolded like a shadow over the stars. Mines detonated in patterns, stealth drones struck key systems, and humans moved silently, deliberately, to weaken the invaders without revealing the full scope of their power. "Admiral Korath thinks he is unstoppable," Eric said quietly, watching the enemy fleet falter. "He will soon discover that humans do not fight like any other species. We survive, we adapt, and we strike when it matters most." For the first time, small tremors of doubt passed through the Zarathian ranks. Ships faltered, alarms sounded, and yet their commanders still did not grasp the scale of what they faced. Humanity's strength was not in brute force, but in discipline, intelligence, and careful planning. The humans had hidden in the shadows, but now they were beginning to emerge, bit by bit, shaping the battlefield to their advantage. And while the Zarathians still believed themselves invincible, the first seeds of fear were planted in their hearts. Eric stood tall, his eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. "Hold positions," he said. "Do not strike fully yet. Wait for the moment when they believe victory is theirs. That is when we will remind them why humans survive. That is when we will change everything." The bridge of the Vanguard was silent, but it was a quiet filled with purpose, with anticipation, and with the unwavering confidence of a species that had prepared for centuries to face a threat like this. Somewhere, in the cold, arrogant confidence of the Zarathian Dominion, Admiral Korath Vale still smiled. He believed victory was certain. He believed humans were weak. He believed nothing could stop him. But in the shadows, humanity waited, and the galaxy had yet to see the storm that was coming. The darkness of the outer veil trembled with the movement of the Zarathian fleet. Hundreds of warships, glinting like shards of black steel, advanced steadily toward human space. Admiral Korath Vale paced the bridge of the Eternal Fury, confident and unshaken. "Soon, they will see the might of the Zarathians," he said. "Their colonies will burn, and their species will learn its place." But even as he spoke, tiny streaks of light flickered ahead, too small to be noticed by most sensors. These were not the humans' main ships. They were stealth drones, moving silently, strategically, and deadly. The first encounter was about to begin. "Commander," reported Lieutenant Zyra Talone. "Sensors indicate minor anomalies ahead. Small ships unidentified. They are avoiding detection." "Nothing of consequence," Korath said, his voice dripping with disdain. Prepare to fire if they dare approach. At the vanguard, Commander Eric Hylier watched the approaching fleet calmly. All units engage stealth drones. Target their scouts and relay positions. A sudden flash of explosions lit up the void. Small Zarathian scout ships erupted in fireballs, caught by hidden human mines and precision strikes. The larger fleet faltered, alarms blaring across their command bridges. "What is this?" Karath hissed. "Impossible. They cannot have the firepower to do this." "They are hiding, Admiral," muttered Commander Veshri, her voice tense. "They are stronger than we expected." But Karatha's pride would not falter. "Advance," he ordered. "Crush them." As the Zarathians pressed forward, the humans revealed more of their hidden strength. Orbital cannons, previously invisible in the asteroid belts, fired with precise accuracy. Ships were disabled, engines melted, and the fleet began to scatter. The Zarathians had never faced an enemy like this. Every human maneuver was calculated, every strike measured. Eric leaned over the command console, issuing calm but decisive commands. Secondary minefield activated. Stealth fleet, flank left. Intercept their vanguard. Lieutenant Sarah Voss executed the orders flawlessly. Small human ships emerged from the shadows, striking at the edges of the Zarathian fleet. Their movements were lightning fast, coordinated with silent efficiency. For the first time, fear crept into the hearts of the Zarathians. Ships that had crossed the galaxy unchallenged faltered under the unexpected resistance. Explosions lit up the dark void, and Admiral Karath felt the first sting of doubt. "They are clever," he admitted quietly. "But this is only the beginning. They cannot stop us." But humans had learned long ago that survival depended not on strength alone, but on intelligence and patience. Every attack was designed to weaken the enemy gradually, to draw them into traps, and to buy time for the larger strategy. Eric watched the holographic display. Red markers, representing the Zarathian ships, were falling back, damaged but not destroyed. "Hold positions," he instructed. "Do not overextend. Wait for them to make a mistake." The Zarathian fleet, confident in their numbers, moved deeper into human space. Each ship was a fortress of firepower, each commander certain of victory. But the humans' hidden network of mines, drones, and orbital platforms had already mapped their movements. Every step the fleet took brought it closer to danger. Suddenly, one of the Zarathian warships attempted to flank the human forces. Lieutenant Voss responded instantly, sending a squadron of stealth fighters around the enemy. They struck from unexpected angles, disabling the ship's engines before it could fire. "Excellent," Eric said softly. "They are learning too late." On the bridge of the Eternal Fury, Karatha's mandibles clicked nervously. "Report," he demanded. "Multiple losses, Admiral. The humans, they are organized. They are not afraid," Zyra Talon reported, her tone almost trembling. Karath slammed a clawed hand on the console. "Impossible. They are only humans. They cannot resist us." Yet resistance was exactly what they were doing. Humans had mastered strategy over strength. They struck when it mattered, avoided unnecessary risks, and exploited every weakness in the Zarathian formation. In the shadows, Eric issued a bold order. "Activate the final drone network. Collapse the perimeter. Lure them into the kill zone." The humans' precision strikes forced the Zarathian fleet to spread out. Ships moved to avoid mines, but every step led them into traps. Explosions rocked the void, lighting the stars with fire and smoke. The first serious Zarathian losses occurred, and panic began to ripple through the fleet. Admiral Karatha's pride faltered. How can they be this strong? They are only humans," he shouted. "They fight differently," Vashri said quietly. "They are patient. They are clever. They survive where others fall." But Karath refused to admit defeat. "We will not fail. Advance. Destroy them." Even as the Zarathians pushed forward, human forces adapted to every maneuver. Stealth drones intercepted communications, mines disabled engines, and hidden orbital platforms unleashed devastating volleys. The humans were not merely defending, they were shaping the battlefield on their terms. Eric observed calmly. Let them overcommit. Soon, the advantage will be ours. The first encounter had begun, and it had already shattered the myth of Zarathian invincibility. The humans were not weak. They were not afraid. And in the cold darkness of space, they were proving that even a small, hidden species could challenge a mighty empire. The Zarathian Dominion had dismissed humanity as insignificant. They had crossed the border expecting surrender. But now, amid explosions and flaring engines, it was clear that humans had prepared for this moment, and that the universe would never underestimate them again. The void of space was alive with fire and destruction. Explosions lit the darkness as the Zarathian fleet staggered under the unexpected attacks of human forces. For the first time in centuries, Admiral Karath Vale felt a prickle of doubt. The humans were not weak. They were clever, coordinated, and relentless. On the bridge of the Eternal Fury, Karath slammed a clawed hand against the console. "How can a species so small fight so efficiently?" he demanded. His officers shifted nervously, unsure how to respond. "They use stealth drones, mines, and orbital defenses," Commander Vashri said carefully. "Their attacks are precise, targeted. They do not strike blindly. They exploit every weakness in our formation." Karath hissed in frustration. "Then we will crush them all the faster. Do not falter. Advance, and destroy everything in your path." But even as the Zarathians surged forward, the humans adapted. Commander Eric Hylier monitored the fleet's movements with quiet precision from the vanguard. Secondary minefield patterns engaged. Stealth drones, flank both sides. Prepare orbital artillery. Lieutenant Sarah Voss executed the orders flawlessly. The drones struck from angles no Zarathian ship could anticipate, disabling engines and weapon systems. Mines detonated in chains, ripping apart hulks of warships and sending debris spiraling into the void. "Target their flagships," Eric ordered. "Do not destroy them yet, just weaken them. Let them overcommit." The Zarathians, confident in their overwhelming numbers, pressed forward recklessly. Their warships advanced without regard for the invisible traps surrounding them. One by one, the human forces picked them apart. A massive cruiser lost its engines to a stealth drone strike. Another flagship was caught in a chain of orbital bombardments, leaving it spinning helplessly in space. Back on the Eternal Fury, Karatha's mandibles clicked nervously. "Report!" he barked. "Multiple ships disabled, Admiral," Zyra Talon replied. "Their defenses, they are everywhere. We cannot locate the source of these attacks fully." Karatha's pride would not let him retreat. "Increase firepower. Crush them. They will not last." But the humans had anticipated his arrogance. Eric's strategy was not merely defensive, it was a controlled, deliberate counterattack. Each Zarathian advance led them deeper into human traps. Mines, drones, and hidden artillery struck simultaneously from every direction. Human ships moved like shadows, vanishing before the enemy could react. "Commander," Sarah Voss said, her voice tense but steady, "the vanguard is beginning to falter. Their formation is collapsing exactly as predicted." Eric's gray eyes flicked across the holographic display. "Good. Keep pressure but maintain concealment. Let them think they are still in control." For the first time, panic rippled through the Zarathian fleet. Ships collided with debris, engines overheated, and alarms rang endlessly. The humans were not only resisting, they were dictating the battle. Every Zarathian ship that had once felt invincible now struggled to survive. Karath growled in frustration. "They are nothing. They are weak. How can they resist so perfectly?" "They fight differently," Vashri muttered. "They anticipate, adapt, and strike when it matters most. They survive where others fail." But Karath refused to acknowledge it. "Do not speak of their strength. Destroy them." As the battle escalated, the humans executed Protocol Nightfall Phase 2. Stealth fighters emerged from hidden asteroid belts, targeting command ships and disabling weapons arrays. Mines detonated in perfect sequence, creating walls of fire that cut off escape routes. Orbital cannons fired relentlessly, devastating the largest ships. Eric watched calmly. Let them panic. Every reckless movement weakens their formation further. Keep pressure, but do not overextend. Their own arrogance is destroying them. Amid the chaos, Lieutenant Voss executed a daring maneuver. She piloted a small stealth fighter directly into the flank of the Zarathian formation, bypassing defenses to disable the engines of a heavy cruiser. The explosion rocked the fleet, creating a gap that Eric had anticipated. Excellent work, Lieutenant, Eric said quietly. Hold that position. Draw them in. The Zarathians were beginning to understand, too late, that the humans were not merely defending, they were orchestrating the battle. Each attack, each maneuver, each mine detonation was part of a carefully planned sequence. The humans were not acting out of desperation. They were acting with purpose, intelligence, and precision. Karatha's frustration boiled over. I will not be defeated by humans. This is impossible. Yet impossibility had no place in this battle. The humans had watched, studied, and prepared. They had learned from every Zarathian conquest. They had trained in simulations, drilled in silence, and waited for the day when the mighty empire would underestimate them. And now, in the darkness of the outer veil, humanity's patience was paying off. Eric's finger hovered over the command console. Phase 3 will begin shortly, he said. Once they overcommit fully, we strike. The kill zone is ready. For the Zarathians, the battle had already turned. Ships were disabled, formations broken, and morale falling. Panic was spreading through the fleet, while the humans, calm and collected, continued to press their advantage. The first encounter had escalated into a full-scale clash, and the truth was undeniable. Humans were not weak. They were patient, clever, and prepared. And in the shadows of the stars, the mighty Zarathian Dominion was beginning to realize that they had misjudged their prey. Karath Vale, for all his centuries of conquest, had never faced an enemy like this. And as the explosions of his fleet lit the void, the seeds of doubt were growing in his mind. The humans had hidden, had waited, and had struck when the moment was right. The battle would continue, but one thing was certain. Humanity had shown its true strength, and the Empire would never underestimate them again. The battlefield was a swirling chaos of fire, debris, and blinking lights. Yet amid the destruction, humanity's calm and precision shone through like a beacon. The Zarathian fleet had begun to falter under the unexpected might of human strategy. For the first time in centuries, Admiral Karathvale felt the sting of uncertainty. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Commander Eric Hylier studied the holographic display with quiet focus. Red markers showed the damaged enemy ships drifting helplessly, some disabled entirely. Humans were not just defending, they were shaping the battlefield with intelligence and patience. Commander, Lieutenant Saravas said, pointing at the display, they're starting to retreat from the center of the kill zone, but their flanks are still advancing. If we overextend, they could recover. Eric nodded. That's why we wait. Let their arrogance guide them into mistakes. Patience is our weapon as much as our firepower. Humanity's true strength was not in their weapons or numbers. It was in their planning, their observation, and their ability to learn from history. For decades, humans had watched the Zarathian Dominion sweep across the galaxy. They had studied every conquest, every defeat of weaker species, every weakness in the Empire's tactics. Every minefield, every hidden orbital platform, every stealth drone had been designed using lessons learned from those observations. Admiral, Ambassador Leora Dane said softly, stepping beside Eric, do you think they realize how prepared we are? Eric shook his head. No, they cannot imagine a species that waits, watches, and learns for centuries. They assume brute force will always win. That is their mistake. Meanwhile, across the void, Karath Vale struggled to regain control. His fleet had suffered losses he had not anticipated. Ships were drifting, alarms blared constantly, and reports of damage flooded the eternal fury. What are they doing? He growled. They are not disorganized, Admiral, Commander Vashri said cautiously. They fight in patterns, strategic positions. This is not chaos. It is deliberate. We are being outmaneuvered. Karatha's 4 eyes narrowed in disbelief. Outmaneuvered by humans? Impossible. But it was true. Humans fought differently. They used intelligence, foresight, and strategy. Each ship, each weapon system, each hidden drone was a piece of a larger puzzle. And every piece fit perfectly. Eric watched the Zarathians move deeper into the human traps he had prepared. Now, he whispered. Phase 3. Lieutenant Voss initiated the order. From hidden asteroid belts, human stealth fighters surged out like shadows. They struck from unexpected angles, disabling weapons, engines, and communication systems. Mines detonated in calculated sequences, cutting off escape routes. Orbital cannons fired relentlessly, targeting enemy command ships. The Zarathians panicked. Karatha's pride and arrogance had led them into this trap. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and explosions spread across the fleet like wildfire. The humans, calm and disciplined, watched every movement and adapted instantly. Eric turned to Leora Dane. Every attack is planned. Every reaction accounted for. They may think they control the battle, but we control them. Leora nodded. It's like watching a predator in a cage, waiting to strike. The Vanguard bridge was silent except for the hum of machinery and the quiet tapping of fingers across consoles. Humans were not yelling or panicking. Every operator knew their role. Every soldier knew the plan. And now, as the Zarathians faltered, their patience and discipline began to pay off. Karath slammed his clawed hand on the console. Pull back, he roared. We cannot continue like this. Fall back and regroup. But the retreat was chaotic. Ships that had once been symbols of invincibility now drifted damaged, scattered across the void. Humans had not only defended, they had forced the mighty Zarathian dominion to falter. Eric watched silently. Hold your positions, he instructed. Do not pursue recklessly. Let them retreat. Let them learn that humans cannot be crushed. In the shadows, the humans' hidden network had not yet revealed its full strength. Stealth drones continued to move, minefields remained active, and orbital platforms stayed in position. Humanity's preparations were deeper and more extensive than the Zarathians could imagine. Karath Vale's pride had blinded him. He believed that force alone could win. He had underestimated humanity's intelligence, patience, and ability to adapt. For the first time, he realized that the humans he had dismissed as weak and primitive were far more dangerous than he had imagined. Commander Hylier, Leora said quietly, do you think they will ever understand what they are facing? Eric shook his head. No, that is the advantage we have. They will never predict the full extent of humanity's strength until it is too late. Across the battlefield, the Zarathian fleet began a slow, chaotic retreat. Ships that had once been the pride of an empire now limped away, disabled and disorganized. The humans did not celebrate. They did not taunt. They had done what they needed to do. Defend their colonies, prove their strength, and prepare for the next move. Every human on the Vanguard knew this was only the beginning. The Zarathian dominion would return, stronger and angrier. But humanity had revealed its greatest secret. They were patient, clever, and disciplined. They survived not because they were strong, but because they were prepared, and because they fought as one. Karath Vale, watching from his flagship, clenched his mandibles in frustration. These humans, they are different. They are dangerous. Eric Hylier, standing quietly on the Vanguard bridge, allowed himself a small, controlled smile. Humanity had survived its first encounter. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it was not weak. And when the next battle came, they would be ready. The stars of the outer veil glimmered coldly around the battlefield. Explosions still lit the darkness. But for the humans, it was a moment of quiet triumph. They had defended their colonies, revealed their strength, and sent a clear message to the Zarathian dominion. Humanity could not be underestimated. And in the shadows, humanity waited, patient and prepared for the battles yet to come. The battlefield had shifted. The Zarathian fleet, once an unstoppable wall of steel, now staggered under humanity's precise and calculated attacks. Ships drifted disabled, Alarms blared endlessly, and the chaos of battle spread across the void. For the first time, Admiral Korath Vale felt a chill of doubt. Humans were no longer just defending, they were striking back. On the vanguard, Commander Eric Hylier stood quietly, his gray eyes scanning the holographic map. Red markers indicated damaged Zarathian ships. Small pockets of their fleet were isolated, cut off from the main formation. Humans had learned to use the enemy's arrogance against them. Every move, every overreach by the Zarathians became an opportunity. "Lieutenant Voss," Eric said calmly, "target their left flank. Push them into the asteroid field trap. Stealth fighters cover the approach. Orbital cannons, lock on and prepare fire." "Yes, Commander," Sarah Voss replied, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. Flank maneuver underway. Minefield sequence activated. The Zarathians, confident as always, advanced without caution. They assumed the humans were still hiding, still afraid, still weak. That arrogance would cost them dearly. As their left flank moved into the trap, hidden mines detonated in perfect timing, ripping through the hulls of several warships. Stealth fighters struck from behind, disabling engines and communication arrays. Ships that had thought themselves invincible now spun helplessly in space. Karatha's mandibles clicked angrily. "Pull them back! Regroup!" he shouted. But the Zarathians were already scattered. Chaos had replaced order in the fleet. The humans were dictating the pace of the battle now. Eric allowed himself a controlled smile. Let them fight themselves into defeat. The more reckless they are, the more damage we can do. Ambassador Leora Dane observed quietly from the bridge. "They still have the flagship," she noted. "If we take it out, the rest may surrender." Eric nodded. "Patience. The flagship will falter soon enough. Let them overcommit first. Let them think they are in control. That is when the turning point will be absolute." Across the void, the Zarathians' pride and overconfidence became their weakness. Smaller human ships continued to harass and disable, while hidden orbital cannons fired from afar. Communications were jammed. Supplies disrupted. Engines destroyed. Panic rippled through the fleet, and for the first time, the Zarathians questioned whether victory was even possible. Korath growled in frustration. "They are only humans. They cannot have the strength to do this. We will not fail." But Eric had already anticipated every reckless movement. Human drones intercepted the enemy's attempts to retreat, mining the path ahead and leaving no easy escape. Stealth fighters disabled the heaviest warships one by one. The turning point had begun. "Commander," Voss reported, "the flagship is exposed. Its rear engines are damaged. Cannot maneuver effectively." Eric's eyes narrowed. "This is it. Signal all units. Focus fire on the Eternal Fury. Finish this strike cleanly, but keep our casualties minimal. Precision over power." The humans struck with surgical accuracy. Stealth fighters darted in from all directions, hitting weak points in the ship's armor. Mines exploded around it, crippling mobility. Orbital platforms fired volleys of energy, targeting command systems. The mighty Eternal Fury, which had once led an unstoppable fleet, was now trapped, crippled, and vulnerable. On the bridge of the Eternal Fury, Karatha's eyes widened. "Impossible," he hissed. "No, how can this be?" His officers were frantic, but the humans remained calm, calculated, and precise. Humanity had turned the tide of battle not through brute strength, but through strategy, patience, and intelligence. The once arrogant empire now faltered under the clever and disciplined assault of a species it had underestimated. Eric exhaled quietly. "This is what we trained for. This is what we waited for. The turning point is ours." Leora Dane nodded. "They underestimated us because of arrogance. Now they will learn why humans survive." The Zarathians' retreat became chaotic. Some ships attempted to flee, only to be caught in traps they could not see. Others continued to fight, but disorganized and scattered, they could not maintain formation. The humans pressed their advantage without losing control. Karatha's mandibles clicked sharply, a sound of frustration and disbelief. "We cannot lose. This is unacceptable," he growled. "Fall back. Regroup. Survive." But survival was uncertain. The humans had seized the initiative, forcing the mighty Zarathian fleet to react, to adapt, and to fight defensively for the first time. The battle had turned, and the momentum was now human. Eric surveyed the battlefield. Red markers dotted the map, showing crippled or destroyed enemy ships. Human casualties were minimal in comparison, thanks to planning and precision. The victory was not complete yet, but the turning point was undeniable. "Maintain pressure," Eric instructed. "Do not let them regroup. Force them to retreat further, but remain ready. This is only the beginning. They will return stronger, and we must be prepared for them. But today we show them what humanity can do." Across the void, the stars glimmered coldly as the Zarathian fleet limped backward, battered and humiliated. The humans, disciplined and prepared, had proven their strength. The turning point had arrived. Humanity was no longer on the defensive. They were now the force that controlled the battlefield. Karath Vale, the proud admiral of a centuries-old empire, had learned a painful truth. Humans were clever, patient, and deadly, and the galaxy would never again see them as weak. Eric Hylier allowed himself a small smile. The first step of victory was complete. Humanity had survived, struck back, and shown the universe its true strength. The turning point was over. The final battle was yet to come, but one thing was certain. The Zarathian Dominion would never underestimate humans again. The void of space was a battlefield strewn with fire and debris. The Zarathian Dominion, once an unstoppable empire, now retreated in chaos. Ships drifted damaged and scattered, alarms blaring, and the proud symbols of centuries of conquest lay crippled among the stars. Humanity had survived, and more importantly, humanity had won the first battle. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Commander Eric Hylier surveyed the red markers on the holographic display. Each dot represented a crippled enemy ship, a victory won not by brute force but by strategy, patience, and intelligence. Humans had orchestrated every move, every strike, every trap with precision. The Empire had underestimated them and paid dearly for it. "Report," Eric said calmly. Lieutenant Sarah Voss tapped her console. "Most of the Zarathian fleet is retreating. Remaining forces are scattered and disorganized. Enemy command systems are offline. Flagship is disabled." Eric nodded slowly. "Excellent. Maintain surveillance, but do not engage recklessly. Let them retreat. Humanity's message is clear. We are not weak, and we will not be conquered." Ambassador Leora Dane stepped beside him, her expression calm but proud. "They've learned their first lesson. Will they return?" Eric's gray eyes met hers. "They will. But now they know the cost of underestimating humanity. And when they return, we will be ready." Across the outer veil, the remnants of the Zarathian fleet limped away, shattered and humiliated. Admiral Karath Vale sat on the bridge of the Eternal Fury, his mandibles clicking in frustration and disbelief. The humans were stronger than he could have imagined. They had not only defended their colonies, they had defeated part of his fleet, struck with precision, and exposed weaknesses he had never expected. This cannot be," Karath muttered. How can humans be this clever, this relentless?" Commander Veshri's voice was quiet but firm. "They planned for centuries, Admiral. They observed, studied, and prepared. You underestimated them because of arrogance. And now your fleet pays the price." Karath glared out at the retreating humans. For the first time he felt uncertainty, and it gnawed at him. The galaxy had been his to command, and now a small, hidden species had shown him their strength. Meanwhile, in human space, celebrations were quiet but heartfelt. Colonists and soldiers alike had survived the attack. Communications buzzed with reports from outposts and stations. Lives had been saved, and humanity had proven its capability to stand against an empire that had crushed countless worlds before. Eric turned to his crew. "We have defended our colonies today, But this is not the end. The Zarathians will return. And when they do, we must be ready to protect all of humanity. Remember this moment. Remember the patience, the planning, and the courage that brought us victory. Lieutenant Voss smiled faintly. They'll remember us, too. They'll remember that humans do not surrender, that we adapt, and that we fight smarter than anyone expects. Leora Dane placed a hand on Eric's shoulder. You've shown them that humans are not prey. We are predators in our own right, Commander. The galaxy will never look at us the same way again. Eric exhaled slowly. The stars outside the vanguard shimmered like cold diamonds, and amid the remnants of battle, humanity's triumph shone bright. The outer veil was quiet once more, but this calm carried the weight of victory. Humanity had survived the greatest threat it had ever faced, and it had done so with intelligence, unity, and courage. Across the galaxy, whispers of the battle spread. Other species who had long suffered under the Zarathian dominion began to take notice. Perhaps humanity's victory would inspire hope. Perhaps it would ignite resistance where there had been only fear. Humanity's first battle had been won, but its legend was just beginning. In the shadows of the outer veil, Eric Hylier allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The humans had waited patiently, prepared carefully, and acted decisively. They had turned the tide not through overwhelming power, but through cunning, strategy, and discipline. And now, humanity could look forward. The Zarathian dominion would return, stronger and angrier, but humans would be ready. Their colonies were safe, their fleets hidden but prepared, and their resolve unbroken. Leora Dane's voice broke his thoughts. The galaxy has changed today, Commander. Eric nodded. Yes, and humanity will continue to change it. We have proven that we are not a species to be crushed. We are survivors, thinkers, and fighters. And the next time they come, we will not just defend. We will strike back even harder. The vanguard and its hidden fleets retreated slowly into safe positions. The stars of the outer veil shimmered around them, silent witnesses to humanity's rise. The battle had ended, but the war for survival and respect was far from over. Somewhere in the distance, Admiral Karath Vale cursed under his breath, nursing the first true defeat of his career. Humans had survived. Humans had fought back, and the Zarathian dominion would never again see them as weak. Humanity had prevailed, and the galaxy would remember it.